Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Scarb Show. I am your host, Andrew Scarborough, and we are live in Salt Lake City. The current date today is September 11th, 2023. So, wherever you may be, sit back, relax. We got a lot to talk about today, so let's get into this podcast, baby. Let's go. All right, everybody, welcome to the Scarb Show. We are officially in season number 3 for the Scarb Show. So, thank you, everyone, for the support and all the episodes we've been doing and listening along as we are on a new season, baby. So, let's go. And not only is the Scarb Show on a new season, but the NFL season is upon us as we just completed week 1 of the NFL season just yesterday, this Sunday. And, man, what a good slate of games, bro. So we're going to get into that a little bit. So first off, week 1 recap. Like I said, some great games that happened. So just to recap on all the games and all the scores. So to start off with, the Lions and the Chiefs were the first game officially, and they played on Thursday night. And with the Lions coming out on top with a score of 21-20, and then we had our first slate of Sunday games, with our first game being the Bengals at the Browns, with the Browns winning 24-3. Then you had the Texans at the Ravens, with the Ravens winning 25-9. And then you had the Buccaneers versus the Vikings winning 20-17. The Panthers and the Falcons, with the Falcons coming out on top with a 24-10 win. You had the Cardinals and the Commanders, with the Commanders coming out on top with a 22-16 win. You had the Jaguars versus the Colts, with the Jaguars taking a 31-21 win over the Indianapolis Colts. Then you had the San Francisco 49ers beating the Pittsburgh Steelers 30-7, which was a major blowout game. You have the Tennessee Titans losing to the New Orleans Saints as the Saints won 16-15. Um, this is a sad one as the Denver Broncos should have won this game if they could have made a couple extra field goals. But the Las Vegas Raiders win the first matchup against the Denver Broncos, winning at a score of 17-16. Then you have the Eagles and the Patriots winning. The Eagles taking the win 25-20. You have the Los Angeles Rams winning 30-13 over the Seattle Seahawks. Then you had the which was the probably the best game of this whole week. The Miami Dolphins winning 36-34 over the Los Angeles Chargers in a shootout game. We'll get into that a little bit. You had the Green Bay Packers taking on the Chicago Bears, with the Packers coming out 38-20 in Jordan Love's first start as ever as a Green Bay Packer. So the Packers win 38-20 over the Chicago Bears. Then you had the Sunday night blowout game with the Dallas Cowboys winning 40 to nothing over the New York Giants. So what a great way for the Cowboys to show out on Sunday night, and what a horrible way to start the season if you're a New York Giants fan, as you get blown out in prime time and don't score a single point. So that's just a little recap of that, but we'll get into some news with it and what I think of this week 1 reaction. All right, now for my reaction of some of these week 1 NFL games that I thought stood out. So we're going to get into that really quick. But the first game we're going to break down and digest is the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Detroit Lions, with the Detroit Lions coming out on top 21-20 on Thursday night. And what a showing it was for Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions as they stopped one of the best teams, the Super Bowl reigning champions, at home in Kansas City, going to Kansas City and taking that dub away from them on their ring ceremony night as well. And you could see that the Kansas City offense was desperately missing Travis Kelce. As you know, Travis Kelce popped his knee, like kind of a slight knee injury, 2 days before the game started on Tuesday, excuse me, and was ruled out for the Thursday night game. So he sat out that entire game, and obviously, man, Mahomes was missing him for sure, as he could not connect on his wide receivers, with Kadarius Toney dropping 4 crucial passes during that game, which pretty much cost them the game, including one of them where it went off Kadarius Toney's hands, and the Detroit Lions safety, Brian Branch, caught it for an interception and ran it all the way down the field for a pick six. So that ended up costing them. They probably would have won this game without that pick six interception. But man, you could tell that defense got after Patrick Mahomes, and that's exactly what you need to do. Aiden Hutchinson went crazy. Um, he was pressuring Mahomes like crazy constantly. Mahomes had to run around, move around, maneuver. Just wasn't settled in the pocket like he usually is. And not just Aiden Hutchinson on that defensive Detroit line, but man, that whole defensive line for Detroit was just making Patrick Mahomes uncomfortable back there. And you could really see it in his throwing and in his decision making. So they definitely were missing Travis Kelsey. During that game. And then, of course, that's how you beat Patrick Mahomes. You got to pressure him. You cannot give him time, man. You, I mean, it's hard. It's easy for me to say because Patrick Mahomes is one of the best, if not the best quarterback in the league right now. But man, the Detroit Lions pinned him in a corner and were making him rush all night, and they ended up with the win for their efforts of pressuring Patrick Mahomes. So man, what an effort by the Detroit Lions! But definitely, Kansas City was missing Travis Kelsey. We'll see if he plays this next week. But man, what a dub for the Detroit Lions! And now getting into that, I kind of want to dive into the Chris Jones situation, as Chris Jones, like I said in my previous podcast, is waiting for a contract extension from the Kansas City Chiefs again. He got one last year, but he's waiting for another one again. And he quotes saying that he's just wanting a raise like everybody else. So Chris Jones, instead of playing in the game for the Kansas City Chiefs on the NFL home opener, instead of being there for your team and supporting your team and helping your team on the field, you decided to not only kind of ghost your team, but you also went and sat up in the press box in your normal everyday clothes, looking pathetic, watching your team play without you out there, obviously struggling on the defensive side of the ball. And you're up there sitting in the booth wondering, hmm, I'm going to sit here and show ownership that's already given me $18 million dollars that I want $20 million. Dollars, and I'm going to sit up here in the booth and look pretty and not support my team on their opening night in home of the NFL season, first week of the NFL season. Instead, I'm going to sit up in the booth and look pretty and demand I get my contract money and continue to sit out until I do. Okay, let me see. Let me tell y'all this. If Chris Jones is making $18 million dollars and wants 20, why? I mean, people couldn't even fathom that kind of money. I understand everybody wants raises. Everybody wants raises in their workplace, wants raises in their jobs. But I mean, you're already making $18 million a year. You're not working at Taco Bell making $15 an hour and want to raise to $16 or $17 an hour because people ask for raises, so it makes life easier on them. You already have an easy life. You are making $18 million a year. How? I mean, you literally have to try and waste and spend all that money to go broke. Plus 18 million, plus 18 million, plus 18 million a year. Do you really think you're going to spend all that money in one lifetime? What is the difference between $18 million and $20 million? Because vice versa, either way, you're set for life. You just are. You're set for life, and I don't understand it. You're really going to sit out your career, get rusty, possibly come back because you are rusty because you sat out all of training camp. You sat out however many games he chooses to sit out this year. He said he'd wait clear till week 8, which is halfway through the season. You come back and let's say they do give you your money and you risk your career and you get hurt because you're rusty. You're not prepared. Your body's not prepared. Your team's not prepared. The system's not prepared. You're not. It just doesn't make sense why Chris Jones is sitting out right now, especially the most embarrassing. I think it was such a bad look, an embarrassing look for Chris Jones to actually go to the stadium and sit up in a press box and watch his team lose because he wants a little bit more money. And listen, he got a contract extension last year. He's making $18 million now. Now he wants $20 million. What are you going to go next year and say you want $22 million? Bro, you make a crap ton of money anyways. Just go out there, play football, and do your job, bro. Like, you're never going to spend all that money anyways, bro. It just didn't make sense to me. But man, that looked pathetic. So definitely wasn't a good game for the Kansas City Chiefs as they were missing their top offensive weapon besides Patrick Mahomes in Travis Kelsey and their top defensive weapon in Chris Jones. And you know what I do if I'm the Kansas City Chiefs? I trade Chris Jones. I do. I trade him. Let some other stupid team go and pay him the money that he wants. You don't got time to waste. You know, I think you have a good enough defense. You only held the Detroit Lions to 21 points, minus the pick six, so you really held them to only 14 points. So I say you go and trade Chris Jones. You get rid of the headache. Chris Jones is a headache. I'm not a Chris Jones fan. It looked pathetic the way he just sat up there in that press box without helping your team. And there's no point. You might as well trade him anyways if he's going to sit there and hold out for a contract. You might as well just get rid of him and get all you can for him. Get a bunch of picks and make your future even brighter for the Kansas City Chiefs because obviously it looks like the offense suffered more without Travis Kelsey than they suffered on defense without Chris Jones. That's just my opinion. If I'm the Kansas City Chiefs, I would trade Chris Jones. And it sounds like the suitor that he would like to go to, from rumors I've heard, is the Dallas Cowboys. Chris Jones would be a perfect fit for the Dallas Cowboys because we all know the reasons why that would be a perfect fit if you're an NFL fan. So yeah, the Dallas Cowboys just like headache players apparently. So if I'm the Kansas City Chiefs, man, I'm trading Chris Jones. I'm not. I've given you enough money, man. I'm trying to win Super Bowls here. I don't need you holding out and then sitting up in the press box looking like a dummy and not helping our team out win or helping our team win. So bye bye. Get out of here. I'm gonna get as many picks as I can for you. So see you later, Chris Jones. We'll get Travis Kelsey back and we'll start winning like the Kansas City Chiefs do. Anyways, that was my take on the first game. Um, I'm not going to get into all these games, just the ones I stood out to me this week. And let's get into this Dolphins Chargers game because, man, what a showing it was for Tua Tagovailoa and the Tyreek Hill duo. They carried the Miami Dolphins to this win. The, all the Tua haters, I'm not a big Tua fan, but man, he shut me up this week, bro. Passing for 400 yards and a couple touchdowns, that's unbelievable. And not to mention the Tyreek Hill connection. Tyreek Hill having 200 yards receiving. Oh my gosh. I mean, they carried them to this win. This was a shootout win with the Dolphins winning 36-34. It was a constant battle back and forth. This might have been the best game of this weekend. Obviously, we have the Jets and Bills tonight, so we'll see how that one plays out. But this was the best game of the weekend. It just showed that Tua, I guess he deserves to be a starting quarterback in the league. Don't get me wrong, it's only the first game, I know. But, man, he showed up and he carried his Dolphins to that win. With the help of Tyreek Hill, of course. But that's the vision the Miami Dolphins have been having for this team. That's why they brought in Tyreek Hill, and that's why they stuck with Tua, man. This game showed that their future, if they do what they can do and be the best players that they can be, this team could be a dangerous team going into the season and possibly a playoff team. I mean, if you keep putting up games like that, 36 points, shit, that's playoff numbers, bro. That's playoff scores. So, man, Miami Dolphins showed up. Tua showed up. Of course, Tyreek Hill showed up like he always does. But what a shootout game. Two of the young rising star quarterbacks in our league. The future, we will see much more probably of Tua versus Justin Herbert matchups in the future. But this is one of the best games of the year, and it's only the first week. So what a showing out for the Miami Dolphins. And then the next game I want to get into is wow, this was a shocking game actually. The Los Angeles Rams went into Seattle and won 30-13, and people are writing off the Los Angeles Rams. I'm writing. I've read off the Los Angeles Rams in my NFL predictions podcast. I only got them going 5-12, but they showed up. They went into Seattle, noisy Seattle, the first week of the season. Matthew Stafford with a team that just lost a lot amount of pieces in the offseason. This is a rebuild team, and they went into Seattle and won 30-13 and shut out the Geno noise in Seattle. I mean, they went and shut up that crowd. So, wow, congratulations to the Los Angeles Rams for an impressive week one win. Um, they got some young defensive players that showed up for sure. So, probably the future is bright for Los Angeles. I don't know if it's right now, but it's probably in a couple of years. But of course, Aaron Donald went crazy like he always does. Matthew Stafford showed up. So they went in there. Sean McVay got a win in noisy Seattle. So 30-13. What a showing! What a showing game for the Los Angeles Rams. But those are probably the games that stuck out to me the most. Of course, you could get into anything else, really. Of course, the Packers and Bears, Jordan Love's first start as a Packer. It's his team. He goes into Chicago on the road, winning 38-20 over the Chicago Bears. Um, of course, that's probably the biggest, if not one of the biggest rivalries in the NFL. Packers fans and Bears fans hate each other, bro, and the two teams hate each other, and that just showed up. I mean, Jordan Love just went in there and quieted that Chicago crowd because Chicago's man they built up in the offseason and they're trying to build a team around Justin Fields and see if Justin Fields is the real deal. But man, Jordan Love went in there and shut them up and blew those dreams up. I know, like I said, it's the only first week, but blew those dreams up really quick. So congratulations to Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers going into Chicago and taking that week one win away from Chicago. Okay, in other NFL news this week, we've had some big contract extension signings that have happened over the last week as Cincinnati superstar quarterback Joe Burrow becomes the paid player ever in NFL history with his signing of his new 5-year, $275 million contract extension with the Cincinnati Bengals. Props to Joe Burrow. He had a horrible game this week, only putting up 3 weeks, but I think the Cincinnati Bengals will be all right. They'll bounce back. It was a division game against the Cleveland Browns. They'll bounce back. But man, Joey B's got his money. Joey Fresh got his money. I mean, dudes is loaded now, and Cincinnati's found their future superstar quarterback. Man, they found their franchise quarterback, and it looks like Joey Burrow is going to be running the show for the next 5 to 7 years in Cincinnati. Well deserving for Joe Burrow, of course. He got his team to the Super Bowl a couple years ago and is in the playoffs ever since, has been in the playoffs almost every year. Um, had a chance to make the Super Bowl last year. Of course, they just ran into the Kansas City Chiefs again. But congratulations to Joe Burrow. Much well deserved for that new contract extension. He becomes the highest paid player ever in NFL history. And then another NFL player has signed his new contract extension, and that is defensive end for the San Francisco 49ers. That player is Nick Bosa, as he gets a 5-year, $170 million contract extension with the 49ers, and he becomes the highest defensive paid player in the NFL history ever. So, two record breaking contracts to ever hit the NFL, as Joe Burrow becomes the highest paid player in NFL history, and Nick Bosa becomes the highest defensive paid player in NFL history. And of course, Nick Bosa deserves that contract too. He's one of the best young rising stars, defensive ends. And San Francisco is looking to win a Super Bowl and build that defense up and keep their core around for the years to come, as Brock Purdy is now looking like their future superstar quarterback and their future franchise quarterback, as they went into Pittsburgh this week and won 30-7 in a blowout game, which Brock Purdy looked amazing. Nick Bosa looked amazing. The whole defense and offensive systems looked amazing. So, of course, San Francisco is a Super Bowl favorite this year. So, congratulations to both of those players. Congratulations to Nick Bosa and Joe Burrow. Well-deserving contract extensions for them. And then some other news to come out of this week, as the NFL Network has announced new analysis for the 23-24 NFL season. And those new announcers are some of former players. First off, we have Gerald McCoy, former Buccaneer, for the defensive tackle who played many years with the Buccaneers. You have former quarterback Chase Daniel, who played for the Bears, Chargers, all kinds of teams. And then you have former head coach for the Stanford, David Shaw, joining the crew. And then you have former coach Leslie Frazier joining the crew. And then two other names that have come up as new analysts for the NFL Network is Pep Hamilton and Robert Turpin. So just some new faces and some new announcers and some new perspectives coming to the NFL Network this season. So hopefully they do good, man. I like to see new faces occasionally on and on. Hopefully they speak well and hopefully they do good. But I'm sure if they got these jobs, I'm sure they have a decent level of understanding and decent level of communication to sound good on these networks because these networks just don't pick anybody honestly. So congratulations to them. We have some new NFL Network analysts. All right, now on to the basketball world where the FIBA World Cup has just concluded. It's just like the Olympics for baseball, like the World Cup in baseball or whatever. All these NBA players or future NBA players play for their home countries that they were born in and play in a tournament for the World Cup, which is known as the FIBA World Cup. For those not familiar, and of course, like I said, you win gold and silver and bronze medals. So this is like the Olympics for basketball. But anyways, that has concluded, and Germany has come out on top, and they have won the FIBA World Cup for the 2023 year, and they take the gold medal away from Serbia. This team was led by Dennis Schroeder and the Franz and Moritz Wagner brothers. Of course, Daniel Theiss too. And this was a shocking team to win um, the FIBA World Cup. And don't get me wrong, these are all NBA players. These are all players that are capable of winning. But man, you had USA and Canada who just produces talent, and Serbia too, Russia who just constantly produces NBA talent year after year after year. So you would think, man, one of those teams were taking the gold, but out of nowhere, man, Germany takes the gold with Dennis Schroeder pretty much being their best player. And don't get me wrong, Dennis Schroeder's a decent point guard. He's a good point guard. But man, that was a shocking upset and a shocking win to Germany winning the World Cup. But congratulations to Germany, man. Well deserved. Of course, they went in and beat USA and Canada and Serbia, the top three teams in the World Cup, to take the gold medal. So, yeah, well, much deserving for Germany. Congratulations on them for winning the FIBA World Cup. And then, of course, Canada, they went and won the bronze medal, knocking out the USA in the final game. USA took fourth place, which was totally shocking because usually the USA just steamrolls everybody year after year after year because they produce the best NBA players every year. But man, these foreign countries now, bro, they're producing top notch NBA talent. Of the league now is half American, half foreign players. Man, I mean, some of the best foreign players you have like Giannis Antetokounmpo. You got Nikola Jokic. You have Luka Doncic. I could go on and on and on. But these teams are producing these foreign teams are producing NBA talent year after year, and they're just getting bigger and better and stronger every year. So definitely, I could see why USA now has competition with what they have. But USA takes fourth place. Canada wins the bronze, and Serbia, of course, wins the silver. And Germany wins it all and wins the World Cup and wins the gold medal. So, congratulations to Germany again. It was a great tournament, and we'll see what happens during this NBA season as it starts up here in about a month or so. Here, beginning in October. So, the NBA season is just upon us. But man, what a great FIBA World Cup tournament we had. All right, now we are going to move on to the UFC world where we have a new champion that just happened at UFC 293 in Sydney, Australia. That just happened on Saturday. And Sean Strickland becomes the new UFC middleweight title champion as he defeated Israel Adesanya in his main event fight in 5 rounds. Unanimous decision went to Sean Strickland. And man, of course, Sean Strickland won this fight. He kicked Israel Adesanya's ass, bro. He cornered him. He put him in a rut for 5 straight rounds. Adesanya looked so gassed after the third round. And Strickland, with his freaking workout routine, dude looked like he could go another 10 rounds. Dude wasn't even phased. Dude wasn't even breathing. He wasn't beat up after 5 rounds, and he went straight after Adesanya. I mean, this was one of the most anticipated fights that has been brewing for a very long time, and it officially happened And like I said, Sean Strickland was not afraid of Israel Adesanya. He went straight after him and he kept going after him. His fight strategy was to put Israel Adesanya in a corner every single time and not give him any room to maneuver or leg kick or fight. I mean, he was every time Adesanya would hit, Strickland wouldn't be afraid and he would just keep going in and closing in on him, closing in on his space, his personal space, and putting Adesanya in the corner. And man, Adesanya was beat up. That face was beaten up. And Strickland looked like he barely took any shots. He was not bleeding. He was not nothing. Adesanya's nose was bleeding. Took a big left-handed hook in the first round. Almost got knocked out by Strickland. Um, Surprised he didn't get knocked out. He took it like a champ, but man, it left a nasty old bruise on the left side of his face. And man, Strickland went after Adesanya, so a very well much deserving win for Sean Strickland because he straight up beat Adesanya's ass and he made Adesanya look stupid. Um, but yeah, that's how it goes sometimes, man. You just run into somebody that just don't care, bro. They don't care who you are. They don't care what you're all about. They're there to fight, and they're there to win that fight. And that was Sean Strickland against Israel Adesanya. He didn't care who Adesanya was. He didn't care about his fame, his notoriety, his record. Excuse me, Strickland went right after Adesanya and made sure he went and won that fight, bro. And in the closing seconds of the fight, Strickland knew he won that fight. He was yelling at Adesanya, "Come on, man, come on," or saying something like screaming in his face, like, "Come on, fight me, dude." And Strickland had that excitement, man, and he knew he won that fight, and he did. He won. People were saying 3 rounds out of five, but I think it was a 4-1 decision. I think Adesanya maybe won 1 round, but freaking Strickland took 4 rounds easily and just whooped Adesanya, made Adesanya look, vulnerable for sure. So, congratulations to Sean Strickland, and of course, I love Adesanya. At the end of the fight, he showed respect to Sean Strickland in the end and said, "Hey, this guy beat me. This guy exposed my weakness." And this guy deserves to have the title because he beat my ass, and that was much respectable for Israel Adesanya, especially losing your title, um, but even still having respect as fighters and as competitors to show respect. Hey, this guy deserves to win. So much respect for Adesanya. I love Israel Adesanya. I think he's one of my favorite fighters in the UFC. But man, he goes down to Sean Strickland, man. And like I said, very well deserving for Sean Strickland as he is the new UFC middleweight champion of the world in the UFC. So we'll see who Strickland fights next for that title. All right, now we are going to move on to some MLB news where we have a player who has reached a marvelous accolade that only the few great players ever reach in their careers, and that accolade is the 400 home runs career home run mark, and that player is Giancarlo Stanton, outfielder for the New York Yankees, as he just this past week reached his 400 career home run. And dude, man, Giancarlo Stanton, when he hits the ball, he hits it hard and he hits it long, and it's gone for sure, bro. When he gets a hold of one, of course, one of the best power hitters in the league, one of the scariest hitters in the league. Like I said, when he gets a hold of it, of course, he was the best player on the Marlins just a couple of years ago, the best hitter on the Marlins a couple of years ago before he got traded to the New York Yankees, and he went on to the Yankees and has carried that still along. Still is one of the best hitters in the league, one of the best power hitters in the league, and one of the scariest players to face if you're a pitcher. As he just reached his 400th home run in his career, and only the great players do this because 400 home runs is so hard to do, especially in Major League Baseball. There's nothing harder in sports than trying to hit a 90-mile-an-hour fastball, as it literally becomes invisible as it reaches and crosses over the plate. So he hit 400 of those, man. Respect, dude. I mean, I'm a Red Sox fan and I hate the Yankees, bro, but you got to give respect where it is due. And man, respect to Giancarlo Stanton for reaching this huge accolade in his career. So congratulations to him. And then now we have a new playoff team, our first playoff team as the playoffs are starting here in just 2 or 3 weeks. Beginning of October, we'll have about maybe 20-ish games left, and we have our first playoff team, and that team is the Atlanta Braves. And I'm not surprised it's the Atlanta Braves, man. They're the best team in the MLB right now. Right now, the best have one of the best players in the league right now, in Ronald Acuna Jr., who I've mentioned in multiple podcasts. Um, they have some of the best pitching in the league, one of the best bullpens, and man, have a real shot, if not the best shot, to win the World Series this year. So, yes, they become the first team to make the playoffs. Of course, the season ends here in about 2 or 3 weeks, so we'll start seeing more playoff teams clinch playoff berths here in the upcoming weeks. But the Atlanta Braves are officially the first team to reach a playoff berth. And like I said, probably the most favorable team to win the World Series this year, as they are just a great and phenomenal young team. So we'll see what happens. All right, we are moving on to the last topic of our podcast, and we are going to head to the college football world, where those Colorado Buffaloes, man, are 2-0, baby, and they're rolling along with Dion and his new team, of course, Shadur Sanders at quarterback, and their star wide receiver, Travis Hunter, leading the way as they went and beat Nebraska this past weekend, 36 to 14, and having a 2-0 record to the season. And the Dion effect is real, bro, because the Colorado Buffaloes won one game last year out of 12. They went 1-12. I think it was like 1-11 last year, and they've already won their first two games of the year. So who knows? This team could go undefeated this year because they are really just that good. And Sanders and Hunter are the real deal. They're the dynamic duo that every team wants. And but man, show some respect to Travis Hunter, bro. As you know, college athletes are being paid now for their name and likeliness, so they can make a lot of money. And of course, Travis Hunter is one of the best, if not the best, wide receivers in college football right now. And he was offered before the season to hit the transfer portal. He was offered $1.5 million to not join the Colorado Buffaloes in the transfer portal and go to some other team. $1.5 million as a college kid. That, could you imagine that much money as at 20 years old, 21? I couldn't imagine having $1.5 million, and respect to him for turning that away and sticking with Dion and sticking with this Colorado Buffalo team, as his draft stock is rising rapidly and could be the player to the non quarterback player to win the Heisman Trophy this year. He has a real shot of winning the Heisman Trophy this year because he is just that good. I mean, as you know, somebody offered him $1.5 million to not join the Colorado Buffaloes, but he said, nope, I'm sticking with Deion Sanders. I'm sticking with my quarterback, Shadur Sanders. I want to play for Colorado. I want to change the dynamic. I want to change the culture here, and I want to go win some football games. So respect to Travis Hunter for staying with the Colorado Buffaloes, and it's already looking like a great decision by him. Like I said, his draft stock is rising. He's one of the best wide receivers in college football. Colorado keeps winning, and they're one of the best teams in college football right now. So respect to Travis Hunter, man, for not chasing the money and chasing after the fame, instead of using that loyalty to stay with your team. And I'm sure NFL teams like seeing that, man. They love seeing loyalty with players. So we'll see what happens with him and the Colorado Buffaloes as the season goes on. And then another wide receiver, college wide receiver, who I think is the second best wide receiver in college football behind Travis Hunter, is Marvin Harrison Jr. And of course, he is the wide receiver for Ohio State, and he is the son of former NFL wide receiver Marvin Harrison, who played for the Colts under Peyton Manning all those years. So obviously he's got some NFL talent. He's got some NFL ability as his dad, and the bloodline carries on to Marvin Harrison Jr. And Marvin Harrison is a Hall of Fame wide receiver, was one of the best wide receivers with the Indianapolis Colts in the Peyton Manning years. But Marvin Harrison Jr. this past weekend had 4 catches for 122 yards in only the first quarter. I mean, that's like a game-ending stat, not a first quarter stat. Usually you have like 6 catches for 120 yards at the end of the game, not the end of the first quarter. I wasn't sure exactly what he ended up with, but man, what an accolade. The boy went off in the first quarter and showed his real NFL talent. He is going to be, if Travis Hunter doesn't go in the draft this year, he is going to be the number one wide receiver in this next NFL upcoming draft. And he will probably be the first wide receiver off the board, whoever might need a NFL wide receiver. Um, there's plenty of teams out there that could use wide receivers in the future. Of course, we're not sure with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Mike Evans situation. You have Green Bay Packers who need some wide receivers. You have the Denver Broncos that could use a wide receiver possibly. There's just all kinds of teams that need wide receivers in the league. So he's definitely going to be a high riser, and if not the first wide receiver off the board in this upcoming NFL 24 draft here in next April. But man, this performance by Marvin Harrison Jr. just solidifies his legitimateness, and his draft stock is constantly rising, and this just helps it even more. All right, everybody, we are coming to the end of this podcast. Thank you guys for sticking around and listening. I appreciate everybody's tuning in every week, and I love making these podcasts for you guys. And of course, we are on our new season, season 3. So make sure you go check out and listen to the Scarb Show. We are available on now YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Check out my Instagram page at The Scarb Show to find all the links wherever you may be listening from. And, just follow and support and like my podcast. Tell your friends and family about the podcast. And I appreciate the support and listens every week. But anyways, before we end this podcast, I am going to do my fun fact of the day for my podcast that I like to do every week. And the fun fact of the day, this isn't so good for it's not so fun for men, but the fun fact of the day for September 11th, 2023 is men on dating apps only get matches 1.6% of the time. So they could have like 100 likes, swiping through dating apps, liking, go through 100 likes and only match with like 2 chicks. I mean, it's rough out here, bro. It's rough out here for us, man. I've been through dating apps, man. They're rough for sure. I'm just trying to have conversations on dating apps. When you do match with somebody, it can be rough. So it's tough out here for us guys, man, on these dating apps. But only 1.6% on dating apps, which is crazy, bro. I never knew that. I didn't know it was that bad of a number, but I guess that's just how it is, bro. But anyways, thank you guys for sticking around and listening. Like I said, go like and follow the podcast. Go take a listen, and I appreciate your listens every week. But thank you guys again, and we are live in Salt Lake City. I am your host, Andrew Scarborough, and this has been the Scarb Show, and we will see you guys next week.